Welcome back to Is It Wrong to Try to Become Girls in a Dungeon? Anime Review episode number 38. This one I'm discussing basically the episode that actually came out just today. Yes, actually, it came out on the website a couple days ago. It's episode 54 of the anime, Wolf Crozzo Shikou. And you're probably thinking, is it more weirdness with the adaptation? Kind of, yes. Well, here's what you got for the adaptation here. Okay. You have basically pages 119 to pretty much 132. That's just one portion. And the chapter also adapts pretty much the rest of chapter 10. Like the last 10 pages of it. Yes, so there's a little bit here with the second half episode focus on Belle's group. The first half focuses on Belle and Lou. Where we have Lou, where you start a brief flashback with her time with her guild, like very briefly, a kind of nice conversation, and then we come back to present day where she's basically recovered enough. She basically heals a wound in her leg, and he tells her he really wants to use her healing power on him. It's like, we need you to walk so we can so I have to keep carrying you all the whole time. He's trying to be polite about it. And by the way, this is the same guy who once peeped on her naked back in season 1. And here's the strange thing about it. She had no problem with him seeing her naked. And this is just after he saw Ain's naked. Yes, and a bunch of other girls. Which, by the way, it was not his fault for the peeping. It was all Hermes. Yes, seriously. So, at the conversation, of course, they be there temporarily. Of course, they move along. And apparently, they're actually on the 37th floor. Now, she's actually been to the deep floor, which is actually below the lower floors of the dungeon. The dungeon itself, they've never actually said in the books how many floors this thing had. I mean, this is only floor 37. Yes, 37. It could be as high as 100 floors. And she does mention she's actually been to deep floor several times. Though, she does mention that the 37th floor is huge. It's as big as the city that they live in, Oria. It's as big as that one. So they have to find this maze so they get out of there. They got to basically also find connecting to the goal to go a couple floors up, mostly. And apparently the closest save point from where they are is actually 2 floors below them at floor 39. So they walk up to the Avengers. Of course, they need some provisions to move along. So she proceeds to, as for sure, she's worn for pretty much the whole series. This point, when she's basically not venturing, has been torn to shreds. Belle does briefly glance at her while she's putting bandages over her chest. Yes. And of course, she looks at Belle like, "What are you looking at?" He's like, "Nothing." Yeah, he probably saw her chest again. Probably for the second time in this series. I should point out, though, Belle is 14 and she's like 21. Yes. Now, you probably would have thought that she would have been much older, but no. She is only like 7 years older than he is. But I'm sure even she probably finds him very attractive. And by the way, in case you're curious, though, after the events of this book, does she play a role in the books afterwards? Well, she has a small story in book 15, and she does not really play a role in book 16. She does play a big role in book 17. Like a really big role. Yes, it's quite surprising how big a role she plays in book 17. Given the fact it's actually Belle being under influence. But I'm not going to get to that right now. So, then they proceed to strip the gear of the dead adventurers. She tells them that she'll basically look at the one through the woman, and he'll go through the guys. He gets some supplies, and of course she gets herself a big overcoat to cover up. Basically, she's like nearly topless. Yeah. So they also find a map of the area, basically a small map, not very detailed map, not a map of the whole area, basically just the area they're in. And apparently, on the back of the map is a banner of the guild. Which guild is it? They actually don't say what guild it is. In the book, that's not really mentioned exactly what guild it is. So they proceed to go off, and that's only the first half of the episode. It just focuses on not cutting back and forth. I like last episode where Bell was only in about a few minutes of the episode. Like, that's where it's been for the last few episodes. He's only been just in a few minutes. Here, he's actually been the first half of the episode. And then the second half is all focused on, you have Welf, where he is. This actually comes from basically chapter. I believe this is chapter 9. I believe it is because, let's see, White Palace, I think it's chapter 11. Let's see, White Palace. No. Basically, the stuff with Bell, the whole Bell scene is from the rest of chapter 9. And we're only in and of course, that rest of the episode is basically chapter 8. The basic whole voice, the hammer. So, we're getting close to getting through, like, wrapping up the first few chapters of the book. I would not be surprised if they basically go through a little more of this, probably, like, over the course of the next few episodes. And in case you're curious, though, we're only, for the second half of the season, we're only about, I think, about 5 episodes in, if I'm not mistaken. There we go. So, yeah, we're roughly about 5 episodes into the second half of the season. We have, I'm presuming, well, here's the thing about how many episodes are left. We have exactly 6 more episodes left to go for the whole season. And then that's it. So, this is going to be presumably done by April. Yeah, probably. So, what happens the rest of the episode? Well, the whole thing is focused on Welf, where he's basically forging this special sword. And of course, he gets basically people in his head. First is Hephaestus, basically, like quotes from her. And in the book, they say it was actually from his father and grandfather. And for some reason, the anime presents as basically like past versions of Welf, which is strange. I'm not really sure why they changed that for. All about forging, and of course, you could say this is supposed to be his father and grandfather, but why the heck are they like exactly like him? It's the same outfit. I don't know if it's JC Staff not knowing what basically Wolf's grandfather may look like. I think his grandfather did pop up once in the anime, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I believe so. Like, he popped up once, and I think that was it. Because I do not remember him popping up any other time in the series. Yeah, that's the strange thing about Welf, is that his family has not really. Here's the thing: Welf is a third generation blacksmith. That's mostly put what he is. Now let's see, Crozzo is his father. He has appeared. Let's see, my first appearance in Volume 8. I think it's just a brief flash of him, but I don't think he had any appearance in the anime. As for his grandfather, I think he did appear once. It says his first appearance was in Volume 8, which Volume 8 was briefly adapted into like a little bit of like the last couple episodes of Season 2. But so technically, in a way, Welf's father and grandfather has never physically appeared in the anime. You think it really? Yes, really. They've never appeared in the anime. Yeah. So he forges things. Of course, they're all. I remember us finding out these aqua creatures, and after all the doubts, basically they're like, "Okay, we're supposed to rebel," and he's gonna get a lot of spark into him. Look like there's a dark energy and forges this really long black sword with like red lighting on it, and then he uses the sword with Cassandra's help to basically destroy all the rest of the monsters. And like, okay, so that wraps it up. And of course, then they leave knowing afterwards, which of course I appreciate the fact he forged a particular sword in this small hurt that he brought with him. and Antimite, which he just randomly found on the ground. Which, okay. Now, aside from that, there's actually a very brief scene. I don't know where this is from, where you have Hestia, I believe, making her second official appearance in the second half of the season, where she's talking to Hephaestus, basically give info about what's going on in the dungeon, and she's also asking her for a gift for payment that month because the expense to come acquisition, and of course Hephaestus says no. It's like, oh crap. And like talk about basically protecting Belle, and of course that kind of leads into stuff with more scenes with more stuff with Belle, which nice brief cutaway. I like that. I think it was nice we included Hestia after she's been absent for a little. I think her last appearance was actually in episode 13. It only been a few episodes since her last appearance, but great to see her. And do I think she'll pop up again in the book? Yes, I believe she does pop up toward the end of the book, but her appearances in book 14 are very scarce. Like 3 or 4 times, not as much as she usually does. She's not there as much, so if you're a fan of the character, you probably would not appreciate JCF not featuring her very much. That is not the fault of JC's staff, that is the fault of the writer. Not featuring her because the whole book, basically books 12, 14 are heavily focused on the dungeon. Like, the whole setting is mostly inside the dungeon itself. Like, the only outside bits we get is basically we get from the start of the season. The other stuff they cut from the book itself, but I'd say the season so far is progressing really well. And I appreciate the fact so far, and by the way, like I said, it's only been 5 episodes. And you're probably thinking, how much further left of the book we got left to go? Well, if you're curious, we have exactly, and this is for the remaining 6 episodes. We have, if you're curious, we have this much left, plus a little bit from like chapter 9. I believe so. Yeah, it's like a little from chapter 9. It's like, let's see. It is roughly about, like, you take out this middle portion here. Let's see. I'd say we probably got, like, a little bit of this section here, plus, like, 200 pages. So we got a little over 200 pages left to go to be adapted for this book. Now, the thing is, could this be adapted for the remaining 6 episodes of the season? It is possible. Yes, it is distinctly possible that we could see this, but it all depends upon JSTEP what they want to do. Now, they did just finally finish adapting book chapter 9, which in the case of Belle, they're probably going to go straight to chapter 10. Yep. So, yeah, not much to say about this. So, that's going to be it. So, next video is going to be Comic Corner, and after that, it's going to be Don't Toy with Miss Nagaro. Okay, next video.